Hello, and welcome to this week's one-on-one for the PS Best Friends podcast. Of course, myself, your host, Anthony Palm. With us today, Henry Halinan, my good friend from work, also has been on the pod before. And how you doing?
Good, good. Thanks for having me.
Glad to have you, as always. So today, we're going to be talking about a little old game called Celeste that came out, I believe, today's February 3rd. I think it came out January 26th. So this would have been 2 Fridays past. You and I have both already beat it. Now, it came out for Xbox One, PlayStation 4, and Nintendo Switch. We both played it on Switch, and it ran very well. I didn't have any performance issues with it,
Yeah.
so I would assume it runs as good on the other consoles.
Yeah.
So let's get started, because you and I have both been talking a lot about this game, and the internet's kind of been blowing up about this game too. What did you think about it?
I love the game. I think it's really fantastic. I mean, you mentioned we both got it on Switch. I think the reason I picked Switch is the portability. I don't think it's available for Vita yet.
No, it's not on Vita. I don't know if it's ever coming to Vita.
And I play my Switch like 99% of the time portably. So I think this game is perfect for a handheld walking around, kind of situation. It's just great to have on the go. Not having the achievements isn't great, because I'm actually, the more I play, the more I'm like, I kind of want to play this on my PS4 and get a platinum trophy for it. But
Yeah, PSN just sent out 20% off codes to everyone that's subscribed to the newsletter, and I was like, "Fuck, do I buy this game again on PS4 for the trophies?"
Once I do
Like,
everything on the
I'm probably
Switch-
not gonna maybe I'll buy this on PS4 like when it goes on sale.
Yeah,
But spending $40 on it in the first month of it being out might be a little crazy for me personally. But
yeah. And I mean, I haven't even tried the
it's something I
B-sides
thought
yet.
about for a second. Yeah.
Yeah,
Uh,
like if I can do everything on the Switch, I might do it all again on the PS4. But
right.
I don't think I'm going to be able to get through every B-side and every C-side before I just get burnt out. It is a great game, but I mean, just the difficulty of those B-sides and just how much time I actually want to put into this versus other
Because
games.
there's C-sides too, right?
There are, yeah. I think it's the same thing. Like,
because I think you showed me one, and they look insane. They look totally absurd.
yeah, I think it goes from, like, the game is really good at getting you better and better and better at the game, and towards the end of the game, not the B-sides, just like the straight levels, you feel good at the game. But I think, like, once you start hitting C-sides, it's less about you being good and more about just muscle memory, because it looked like a
Muscle
lot of
memory and kind of precision, because this game initially I thought it was going to be one of those pixel perfect games where it's like you have to get the exact like pixel right, like when you land on something, and not so
yeah,
much for the main game, maybe a little bit towards the end, but even that, I mean, there's a tiny bit of leeway. But yeah, with those C-sides, it looks like you need to nail everything exactly the way the developer intended.
yeah,
um,
exactly.
so I have 9 hours 59 minutes logged in it, but I did do a little tinkering after I beat it, so I think I was around like 9:42, something like that. How many hours did you clock when you beat it? Do you remember?
It was 8 and change. I think it was like 8 minutes, maybe 8 minutes, 8 hours and like 8 hours 20 minutes, 8 hours 30 minutes.
So how did you feel about the length? I thought it was a really good length. I thought by the time I got to the end of it, it was long enough where it felt fulfilling, but it was short enough where it's like, fuck, I want to go back to it. I almost want to replay this game already.
Yeah, and I remember I was watching some videos about Sonic Mania, and people were saying how once they beat that game, they wanted to go right back and play it from the beginning. And that's not something I had with that game, because I think pacing-wise, or maybe I'm just not good at Sonic games, I just didn't feel that. But with this game, just how the game ramps up in difficulty, but also it kind of gives you a great learning curve where it's never ever too hard. So, like, I never hit a point where it was just like a dead stop in the game where I was like, fuck, like, I'm never going to beat this, and I put it down. It was like I would do something and it would be hard, and then it would get to a point where I'm like, fuck, but I don't know. I would just I think the pacing in this game, the level design is designed like so impeccably that you're never going to hit that point where you just stop playing and you're just like, fuck, I can't do this.
Yeah, I
Um,
could agree to that. I feel there were moments where I was like, I need to put this down for a little bit and come back to it. But it was never like, fuck, I'm never going to get through this. It was more like, I just need to cool off for a second. Like, I would get frustrated, be like, all right, let me put it down for a minute. And then I'd pick it
yeah,
up, and then I would breeze through it. But yeah, no, I agree. I don't think there was any like head against the wall parts. There was some strawberries, which are the collectibles in the game. There were some of those where I was like banging my head against the wall, but they're totally optional. The game even tells you like, just get them if you want to get them. You know what I
yeah.
mean?
Well,
So I really.
Spoiler though, did you like how they incorporated those into the ending?
Yeah, that was cool. I
Yeah,
like that.
I really like that a lot. I mean, they do mean nothing, so yeah, it is just a collectible, just to, a pissing contest, just to say you got it. But
Yeah, I'm at 62 right now, and that's basically my first playthrough plus replaying the first level.
yeah,
And there's I think 175.
yeah, 175.
The thing that I is interesting about this game is that it does keep a death count tally. Yet the game is so focused on telling you like your deaths don't matter. So it's interesting
Yeah.
that it tells you how many times you died, but at the same time telling you don't worry about it though.
Yeah, and I mean, it does say, don't worry about your deaths, and then later it does say, take your death counter and make it something you're proud of, because with each death is a learning experience. So
Yeah, I like
it
that too.
it does throw a positive spin on the larger your death count. It's not a bad thing. It just means you were learning the game or learning a level.
So
Hey, buddy, you want to be on the podcast? Come on. Okay, run away. Fine, you little dick.
almost had a surprise guest.
Yeah.
Um, for audio listeners, that was Henry's cat Krieger.
Yep.
So there was one level that I didn't really like that much, and I kind of want to go back to it and try it again. And that was chapter 3. I won't spoil what it is, but chapter 3, I was kind of getting to the point of I don't know if I really want to get through this. And then once I finally got to the end of it, I was like, retrospectively, I was like, it wasn't as bad as I made it out to be. So I'm curious to go back to that. But how did you feel? Did you thought every single level was excellent? Did you have any kind of criticisms about? I thought the final 2 levels were amazing, like easily the best content in the game.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have any complaints about any levels. I know the one you're talking about. I don't remember it being as difficult or as frustrating.
I just thought
Um,
it was very long, like it dragged down a lot.
I mean, it. Yeah, I mean, I think it was one of the long. I think it was one of the longer levels that I played too. I think it had a longer play time when I did my first playthrough of the game, obviously, and I saw, my play times for each level. I think it had a longer one than most. Obviously, the last level itself, I think, it took me about 2 hours.
Yeah,
But
so
that,
some it took me 2 hours and 10 minutes. Interestingly enough, I'm looking the Mirror Temple, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, chapter 5. That took me the longest at 2 hours 49 minutes. But I don't know if I had some idle time in that too. Might have had
yeah,
some idle time in that because I think it was
um,
footage for it, so I might have like put the controller down, did some stuff on the computer.
yeah.
Um,
But no, I other lengthwise, I think all of them were great. I mean, some of the boss battles feel like they go on a little too long, but like you never. I mean, I just wanted to keep playing. I just wanted to get through the boss battle. I mean, the last level taking 2 hours, it didn't feel like it took 2 hours. It felt like it took an hour because I was just so into
Well,
it. I just wanted to.
the final level is so good because it takes the principle of what the game is about and really applies it to the story, both visually and thematically. And it's kind of hard to say without spoilers, but I mean, the game is about climbing a mountain, and it
Yeah,
kind of hits home on that climbing a mountain part and the end of the game. So I really, really
yeah,
enjoyed that
yeah.
final level. I think I texted you like halfway through the final level, and I was like, dude, this last level is awesome.
Yeah, I like how they incorporate all the mechanisms and, gameplay mechanics back into the final level, and, mixing and matching them, so you're working with, all the things you've experienced throughout the game, and then you're kind of doing kind of like a snapshot of each level, and, snapshots of all the mechanics, and then at the end it kind of goes bare bones, and it's about just kind of climbing the mountain towards the end, which I think is really was really awesome.
Yeah. So, and you had mentioned this to me earlier in the week. The real surprising thing about this game was the story to me. I really did not
Yeah,
expect to love the story as much as I did. When I bought this game, I more was about the gameplay. Like I was like, oh, this looks like a really cool kind of bite-sized game. I think I had the wrong idea about this game going into it. I was kind of under the impression that it was kind of like Super Meat Boy or like N Plus, where it was just stage based.
hmm
Like you pick a stage on each, like each stage is on like a menu,
yeah,
and it's a legitimate like 2D story platformer. Like there's full size levels in it. So I think I had the wrong idea about it going into it. But going back to the story is really what hooked me. I think where I
Krieger,
just
for God's sakes.
yeah, I think the story fits in line with a lot of my other favorite games. It kind of falls in line. I mean, Hellblade is the other extreme of the type of story this is, but kind of there's some parallels there, story like theme wise.
Yeah,
It's another one like Edith Finch. I got done playing What Remains of Edith Finch on PS4. that game had similar kind of vibes as well, story beat wise. So this definitely falls in line with a bunch of my favorite games that I've played recently. And I mean, it's February 3rd, so there's
Yeah.
only like 3 games out that I've been played that have come out in this calendar year. Those would be Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball Fighter Z, Dragon Ball Fighters. I don't know how you fucking pronounce it.
Yeah, whatever.
Monster World, which I just haven't put nearly enough time into, and then Celeste. And Celeste has been the one that I've played the most of, and it's the one that's drawn me to it the most.
Yeah, no.
Really
I mean,
impressed.
the
And
story
this game
does
kind
really
of
come out
came
of
out of
nowhere.
nowhere too.
The game came out of nowhere, and I think the story also really in the AMA the developer, because there's more than one actually. It's one guy. I think one guy made Towerfall Ascension, and maybe he expanded the team for this game, or maybe it was multiple people on both. But he the developers were mentioning how people were saying and applauding the story and how it tackles certain themes and topics like mental health and anxiety, depression, and all that, and how they kind of came up with it, how they implemented it into the game so well. And it was just something I think Matt from Matt Makes Games, I believe, or at least the head, he was just saying how he wanted to have a good story, he wanted to have a good dialogue, a good theme throughout the game, and it's really incredible how they end up pulling it off, because you're right, when you see this game you think and I hate saying Dark Souls, but it's one of those difficult games that people are that's kind of the trend now. People want to play difficult games, and it looks like like a Super Meat Boy, and Super Meat Boy. When you see those kind of games, you see a pixelated thing. You don't think there's going to be
And
a lot of story in it.
those games kind of laugh at you when you die too. Like Meat Boy doesn't literally laugh at you, but I mean, your blood stains the walls anytime you die in Meat Boy. It's kind of like
Yeah,
fuck, this is so embarrassing.
it,
And Dark Souls, like the monster, like it's just you get run over every 5 seconds in Dark Souls or Bloodborne or Demon Souls or whatever. So this game I thought handled dying very well, and it never makes you feel bad about yourself, despite the fact that I have 2,100 deaths.
yeah.
So I did a very good job of that.
Yeah, I mean the game opens with "you can do this," and I think that in the AMA they also mention how the entire game it's not, it doesn't want to discourage you from playing, it doesn't want to discourage you from finishing it. It wants you to complete it, and that's kind of that's the motivation of the character, and it's also your motivation. It's the motivation of the player and the character, so there's automatically a parallel between who you are and who the character you're playing as is. So you automatically have some sort of relatability there. It's, you want to play this game and finish this game. The game tells you you can do this, and the character is, it's about her climbing the mountain, but you're also climbing the mountain, as her. But it's just like that parallel right off the bat. You already are empathize with her, and then learning her story along the way and the other characters who you meet along the way. It's just, I think they implemented the story into this game pretty impeccably. I think it was done really, really well. You actually connect with the characters, and I think that they did a really good job of having that happen.
Yeah, and there's a moment towards the end of the game. I think it's chapter 7. How many chapters are there? 8.
Playable chapters.
Chapter 6. I think it's the one where the game kind of slows itself down, and it there's a chapter where it's just like almost all story heavy. I think it's chapter 6, and
Reflections.
yeah, I think it's that one. I'm trying not to spoil it, but yeah, you know what I'm talking about, where like Madeline sits down and kind of reflects on it. I'm assuming that's it because that title would fit that perfectly. So I'm assuming that was that, because I kind of just ran through the last 3 chapters all at once. But I love that moment of the game where, when's the last time you ever had a Sonic game or a Mario game or any real like what's like a 2D platformer that's had a great story? I mean, maybe Shovel Knight would be the closest thing I think to this, as far as like getting such a small story, but also getting across that story very well, because it's not like an overly in-depth story, and I don't want to make it seem like this complex Shakespearean narrative, but it's a very well done, very small personal story done in a small span of time, and there's not really many cutscenes in the game. So I think Shovel Knight's probably the best example of like something similar story-wise, because there wasn't really a lot of story beats in Shovel Knight either, but when they happened, you paid attention to them. And
no, I'd agree with that. Yeah, no, it's not a Game of Thrones. It's not any groundbreaking story itself, but the way they deliver it, I think, is really great.
Exactly.
yeah, it's very connectable, relatable, and you definitely will feel something. You definitely feel happy. You'll feel sad. You'll feel tension and all that. And that's something that not every game can do as effectively as this game did.
So let's address the elephant in the room with this game. This game is almost universally getting perfect scores, 10 out of 10s, 5 out of 5s, what have you.
Yeah,
I think Polygon gave it an 8, but for the most part, every other website's given it a 9 or a 10. Where does this fall for you if you had to rate it?
absolutely, I agree with that. And I mean, you always want to, you never want to conform. You never want to. I mean, it's just too easy to confirm their what they said, but I mean it just really is. I mean there are very few games that I play that I would say there are 10 out of 10s, but those are the games where I finish it and I don't want it to be over. And this game I don't want to be over. I want to go back. I want to try my best to go get those things before I actually put this game down for a while and say I'm done with it. And that's the sign of me of a game that's a 10 out of 10 is a game that as soon as it's over I'm not done with it. Yeah.
Yeah, so for me, I don't really like giving scores out in general. We tend to not really score things on the podcast, but gun to my head, if I had to say whether this is a 10 or a 10, I think I have to concede that I think this is a masterpiece. And I don't think any game is a perfect game. Every game's got flaws. I mean, there are flaws in this game too. Some of the earlier levels doesn't really teach you some of the mechanics. You kind of have to figure them out on your own. So that kid, depending on who you are, might be taken as a negative. I don't think it's necessarily a negative, but some people might look at it that way. There is some things about the game. Jeffrey on the podcast, he didn't like that there's no map in the game. And at first, I kind of like it could use a map, but then the more I played it, the more I understood it's pretty straight. Like it's a pretty linear game, and then you're going to hit a dead end pretty quick if you're not going the wrong if you're going the wrong way.
Yeah.
I think that
I was just like, when I was hunting for the hearts and hunting for the B-sides, I looked up, like somebody printed out like a big, basically map of the game, and had it on a website. They had pictures. I guess they just compiled everything together and showed it. I thought this game was a lot bigger than it was. This game is not that big. It is pretty linear. There are some, strands of the map that you can go off into, and there are some
that's
secrets.
kind of what I was trying to tell Jeffrey is that it's a pretty linear game because his problem was that he was playing it, and he said it might have been the environment he was in when he was playing it too, because he was playing it on the train, and I guess he was just kind of frustrated in general. But he said his problem was that if he pauses the game and puts it down and there's 3 different ways to go in the room that he's in, how does he remember where to go? And I told him it's pretty linear. Like if you go the wrong way, you're going to know you're going the wrong way. Or if you're backtracking,
Yeah, and a lot
be able to recognize that you're backtracking.
Yeah. And a lot of the times, like if you go off into a side room, you'll just see that it's one room and it's just for a strawberry. So it's like
Exactly. Like you'll hit a dead end pretty quick. It's like it'll be a room dedicated for one, puzzle or something.
And if you're going off in the wrong direction for too long, that probably means you're going to find a heart or a B-side. So if you're going in the wrong direction for an extended period of time, there is something that it's not like you've wasted time. You're going to find something at the end of that dead end, and all you got to do.
I think the reason I didn't like Chapter 3 so much is because I feel like that's the one level that did feel a little bit like you can get kind of lost, just because of the way it's laid out and the way that the assets look in the level. But aside from that, yeah, I had no issues navigating in that game. Like I said, it's pretty much go to the right, go to up. You know what I mean? Otherwise, you're probably, and if you're supposed to go left, it's like the only option to go left. So it's pretty obvious. But what did you think about the puzzles in the game? Because I thought some of them were ridiculous and some of them were absolutely brilliant.
Just going to refer to the AMA here, but I think the level design was amazing. And I didn't even kind of realize I really loved it, but I couldn't really put into words why. And then when I read the AMA, it kind of summed it up perfectly. So when they designed each one, they took really difficult ones where you needed to be really precise, and stuff like that. They took the really truly difficult ones and tried to make them look as simple as possible. And then they took the really easy ones and tried to make them look super complex. So when you're playing one, you walk into a room, you see all these contraptions and stuff, and you're like, oh fuck, like how am I going to do this? And then all of a sudden you just jump once, jump again, and then like you do a few things, and then you've made it through the level. You're like, wow, that was easy. Like I can't believe I thought that was hard. And then you get to one where you're like, okay, I can do this, and then all of a sudden you find it challenging. But it's just a way to keep you kind of engaged, and and again, it gets back to you never feel like it's too much. And I think that was a really good way to design the levels, because it kept me playing, and I think it kept a lot of people playing, obviously.
Yeah, I definitely noticed that towards the end of the game, because you had mentioned that to me. I think it was Thursday. When was the AMA? Wednesday or Tuesday?
I think it was Wednesday.
It was earlier in the week. So, but you told me like the day after the AMA, you had told me that they said that, and since you had told me that, I had noticed it a couple times where it's like, this looks really hard, and then I'm like, but you know what? Let's go for it. And then you figure it out, and it feels so good. Like the sense of accomplishment when you beat some of these puzzles is so
Yeah.
good. And some of the non-skippable puzzles, like you need to get past this to progress through the level. Some of those were very intense too, and I found myself kind of thinking like, wow, like if I can't do this, I can't progress. But I would just keep doing it, and by like because of those parts where like if you don't get through it, you don't progress through the level, it gave me the mentality of when I got to a strawberry that was similar to that. I was like, well, you know what? Like I did stuff that was hard that I had to get through, so why can't I try a little bit? So it does give you a very good sense of reward, a very good sense of accomplishment when you get through them, and it does, like you said, it kind of trains you to not think of them as daunting. So I think it's excellent. So
Yeah, and it builds up player confidence. You'll see, like you said, you'll see a strawberry off the beaten path, and you'll be like, well, I did something that was harder than what this puzzle looks like, so I can do this. And then you just go and you do it. And it just goes back to every time it goes back to that opening line. It's you can do this. So every time you see something you think you can't do, the game, has given you the confidence to be like, no, I can do this. And, it's just one thing or another. And what I like is, if you're not figuring out a puzzle, you keep dying and dying and dying, and then you'll have that like bright light idea where it's just like, oh wait, but there's a wall right over here that I could latch onto, and then you figured it out, and then you've gotten like that much further in the puzzle, and or you've solved it, So I agree, it definitely does give you a really great sense of accomplishment.
So we'll start wrapping up now. We've been going for about 20 minutes, I think. Do you have any final closing thoughts on Celeste? I think we both kind of agree this game is a masterpiece of a game, and I can't recommend it highly enough to anyone that's thinking about getting it. Even if you're frustrated easily with games, I would say give this a shot, because it's going to make you feel like even if you're ramming your head against a wall, the game's going to keep telling you, hey, keep trying. Like you can do it. Like you said, the opening says you can do this. So I can't recommend it highly enough. What are your closing thoughts on the game?
Yeah, absolutely. 10 out of 10 would recommend to any and every gamer. I think it's definitely going to be a staple for, platformers and stuff. I think we're going to see a lot of stuff probably coming out that's similar, a lot of clones. And I would say I would have paid $60 for this game. I think, what is it, 20?
$20, yep.
Yeah, I think you get bang for your buck there. I think, I think it's, there are a lot of $60 games that are coming out nowadays that I think aren't even worth 20. And this game is a $20 game that I think is worth 60, because there's so much content in there. And yeah, maybe it's, you play it for 8 hours and you beat it, but then there's just so much more game left. And I really think the developers did a great job of making a complete game that just feels great and is, it's a masterpiece, like you said.
So that's going to close out this one-on-one of Henry and I discussing Celeste. We both agree you should go buy it if you haven't played it yet. If you have bought it, let us know what you think. You can hit us up on our Facebook group, facebook.com/groups/PSBestFriends. You can also check out our other new content. We have the main PS Best Friends podcast live every Tuesday like usual. We also have our new podcast, Cocktail Hour. That's going to be us kind of more relaxed, kind of shooting the shit podcast. That is available Wednesdays. These one-on-ones we're planning to have every Friday, if not every other Friday. But yeah, again, go play Celeste. Excellent game. Excellent game. Wish I could talk today. Excellent game. We will talk to you next week.
Peace. Thanks for having me.